Hi, in this video I'm going to show you a way of cleaning limescale out of a carburetor. It may seem like a strange thing to have inside a carburetor of a motorbike, but it's a result of having alcohol-based fuel. We have 5% alcohol in our fuel, and alcohol is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs water. Now what I've done here is I've stripped the carburetor, it's the front carburetor off a VS1400, and you can see, if you look at the float bowl, you can see that you've not only got your usual green slime that you normally have with fuel, but what you've got is this chalky deposit that has built up on the jets, and I can assure you that it's just as bad inside. And what we've basically got with this particular carburetor is a slow running problem. It's backfiring, it won't tick over, and it's impossible to balance the tick over between the two carburetors. I've taken all the, you can see I've taken all the jets out, I've taken the floats out and everything. And this is the needle jet, the actual fuel needle jet valve. Caution must be taken when you pull this out, because you've got to obviously use a pair of pliers to pull it out, and the last thing you want to do is crush it or damage it. If it won't come out, just leave it in, we'll just clean it in situ. You can see all the different jets there, you can see the state they're in quite clearly, and look at this one here, this is one of the main body jets, and this one's basically absolutely covered in limescale. This little chap here, I suspect, is the culprit with our today's running problem. This is the pilot jet, and this is basically responsible for the tick over and for about the first eighth of the throttle. You can, well, clearly you can't see through it. You should be able to. There should be a tiny little hole in it, and you should be able to see light through it. So that indicates that there's probably a limescale build up inside it. All the jets are quite contaminated. They all need a damn good clean. You can see the build-up of limescale on this one in particular. Now, it doesn't respond to carburetor cleaner. We always use carburetor cleaner, and you know, in the past it's always worked fine, but with the modern problems, and we're seeing this more and more often now, with the modern problems, simply doesn't respond to any of the usual solvents that you would normally put in, and the fuel additives that you put in are a total waste of time. The best thing you can do really is, if you're going to leave it over winter, is drain the tank and drain the carburetors. Failing that, if you absolutely can't do that, then put a cap full of two-stroke in before you shut the bike off for the winter, before you leave it for the winter. Remove all the jets as you can, any of the jets that you can actually take out of it. This is the air corrector jet. Now the problem doesn't normally lie with the air corrector jet, so you could just leave that one in if you want, but I always think, as I've gone this far into the carb, I might as well take everything out. You can quite clearly see the air corrector jet there. On some carburetors it's actually blocked with, it's actually filled with lead, and you can't take it out or adjust it. But what we do, so that we get it back in the same, you know, in exactly the same state of tune as we take it out, is we screw it in first of all to see how many turns it goes in. That's half a turn clockwise, 1 turn, 1.5, 2 turns. That's fairly typical. They're usually between 2 and 2.5 turns out. So now we know how many turns out we need to reset it. We can unscrew that jet completely, take it out. Now beware, underneath the jet is a spring, and then a flat washer, and then underneath that is an O-ring. And be very, very careful to take that O-ring. You need to take that O-ring out before you start blowing air through it or blowing power clean through it. Otherwise you'll blow it out somewhere and you'll lose it, and it's quite a difficult one. It doesn't come with most carb tune-up kits, so that's something you want to bear in mind. Try not to lose that one. Now what I've done is I've just cut a gallon can, an old can of thinners off, and I put the carb, and I put the float bowl and all the jets. I don't put the rubbers in. I tend to avoid putting descaler onto the rubbers. Now what I'm using is just a multi-purpose kettle descaler. Just liberally pour that all over the carburetor, get it in all the capillaries, get it in all the little airways and junctions, fill up the float bowl there so that your main jets and everything are soaking in descaler. You can use white vinegar, any kettle descaler will do. And boil up a kettle. Get yourself a good kettle full of water, boil it up. Then what you're going to do is just literally pour the boiling water all over the jets, and you can see, even from this poor quality video, you can see how clean the brass of the jets is coming straight away, and it cleans the carburetor body up really well as well. I would say better than sonic cleaning. This is the carb after. What I've done is I've given it a damn good flushing with clear water. You really do need to religiously flush it out with clear water so that there's no acid left in it. You can put a little drop of bleach in the water when you're flushing it, just to completely neutralize any acid, and then give the bleach a damn good wash and a good flush out with fresh water as well. Just literally run it under the tap. And you can see in the end of the carburetor, you can see the gum and the soot that you normally get in a carburetor. That hasn't shifted. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a good clean out with carburetor cleaner afterwards, blow through all the capillaries, blow through all the jets, and then we're going to give it a good clean out with an airline. But that's, you know, if you've got an airline, that's an obvious choice, but if you haven't got one, then you just use what you can. Later, what we'll do with a later video is we'll actually show you the rear carburetor, because it's the rear carburetor on the VS models that plays up the most. And what you have with the rear carburetors, if you see the longer of those two tubes, that's actually the emulsion tube. And on the rear carburetor of the intruder, this is just showing you what I've done with this one. This is going to send all the traditional mechanics running to the hills. But this is the pilot jet, and what I've done is poked it through with a bit of Bowden cable. Now it's not a thing which you want to recommend, but you have to do it, because limescale will not be shifted with air or anything else. You can actually see there's a little lump of limescale on the end, which was a plug in that jet. Well, I hope this video has been of use to you. Like I say, we're going to put up some other videos. We're going to show you, when we get round to it, we're going to show you cleaning out a rear carburetor, which is the one that goes the most. And last but not least, a shameless plug for my Thriller series, available on Amazon. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel.